Welcome to Unite and Rise 8.5. What it is, why does it matter, and what does it mean for you? That's exactly what we're going to uncover in our second episode of this 3-part web series. Hi, I'm Celina Stewart, CEO of the League of Women Voters of the U.S., and I am thrilled to invite you on this journey to explore how everyday people, just like you, can stand up, speak out, and take action to defend our democracy. This is our moment to unite and rise. Let's get started. Today, we're going to explore what activism looks like in our current moment, why partnership is important, and how it continues to evolve even in this moment. This movement is far beyond the League of Women Voters. It is broad, it's inclusive, and it's collective in spirit. To succeed, we must come together, partnering across communities and causes. Unequivocal solidarity is required in this moment. That's exactly what we're here to do today, so let's do this, ladies. I'd like to introduce our guests today, longtime movement partners Sheila Katz and Shavon Arline-Bradley. Sheila Katz spent the past 6 years serving as CEO of National Council of Jewish Women, a 130-year-old organization. Under her leadership, NCJW responded to threats to abortion access, voting rights, childcare access, equal pay, and other issues of equity through protests, advocacy, and new campaigns. Welcome, Sheila. Reverend Shavon Arline-Bradley is the president and chief executive officer of National Council of Negro Women and brings 21 years of experience in healthcare. It's going to be a list, y'all. Healthcare, diversity, equity, inclusion, government affairs, and executive leadership. She is also the founding principal and CEO of Reach Beyond Solutions, a public health, advocacy, and executive leadership firm promoting DEI, political and organizational strategy, risk management, government affairs, and technical assistance. Thank you both so much. Hello, Shavon. How are you?
So good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both so much for being here today and bringing your knowledge and experience to this conversation. I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you all today.
It's going to be fun.
Yes. It's good to be together.
Okay, so I have some questions for y'all.
Yes.
The first question about your leadership. So we are leaders in a moment of rising authoritarianism, also disinformation and deep distrust in institutions, particularly political institutions.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part of being a nonprofit leader right now as an individual, but also leading an organization as you do it in this moment?
I'll start. First of all, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
It's an honor to sit with two folks that I respect deeply. The hardest part, I think, individually, is not knowing when to go far enough or too far. Right? I feel the weight of boundary. And to be very frank, I'm a bit of a radical.
Amen.
And so when you're a radical and you're responsible for an institution, your radicalness can be actually harmful to your institution. So there's this kind of constant tension around what does it mean to be you as a person and what does it mean for the institution? Our organization is almost 90 years old. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune will not be coming after me, right? Dr. Height, I hear you, our longest serving president. So I think individually it is the tension between how far should I go? I think the other thing is the moving targets, right? So you don't know what I mean by that is every day there's an EO, every day there's a new thing,
Right.
There's a new attack on institutions, and so our funding was pulled in some of our government work that was specific to public health and vaccine education, right? Saving lives across the country, shots in arms, activating, and yet and still the target moves when you speak out or you are in alignment. I think the other piece too, as an institution, tracking your funding, tracking your advocacy moves, right? Everybody knows these 501c3 rules are very, very different. So how do you stay relevant to your constituency and yet not be in trouble with the IRS, which in these times could mean dangerous. You'll literally lose your organization.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's so interesting, that tension between individualism and institutional legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legacy.
Because it's on your shoulders. You're carrying it, but you
mantle.
also have to protect.
Well, it feeds right into, and I'm not, first of all, so happy to be here as well with two of my favorite people and two of my favorite leaders. it's hard to lead generally and to make change, but where I've been sitting and, having served as CEO of National Council of Jewish Women for 6.5 years, is it's overwhelming. Like the moving target you're speaking about, there are so many issues, and often they're so deeply personal. Like, of course, as a woman, the constant need to fight for bodily autonomy, respect, safety, equal pay, and even to just have my voice in the space where it deserves to be, because I run a women's organization, and sometimes people like to shove that to the side. It's never ending, and I'll just say this, as a religious minority, as somebody who's Jewish, we make up less than 2%, or just about 2% of the population in the United States, yet nearly 70% of all reported religious hate crimes this past year targeted Jews. Like, we are living in a moment in the highest amount of anti-Semitism that we've experienced. These things on top of each other with those two identities for me, that's just what it means to exist as me in this world. And then we're leading an organization on top of it. I think the issues that we are blessed to work with every day are things that happen in our communities, but also things that impact us. And of course, then I understand what it means to be doing this work as a white woman and needing to center Black women and people most impacted on issues like equal pay and reproductive rights. But I do think there are constant crises, one after the next, and it's designed that way. It's meant to exhaust us. Sometimes you want the privilege of being ignorant, but then you don't because you can't actually make a change. And so the one thing I hold on to is there's actually a teaching in Jewish text from something called Pirkei Avot, which is an ethics textbook almost. And they say you're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. And I hold on to that. I hold on to it because we can't fix everything right away, but we also have to show up. And I believe strongly if each of us does our small part, together we could do something that's sustaining and powerful. And I really just hold on to the fact that democracy is a group project.
I mean, that's like my Luke 12:48, like to whom much is given, much is required. That's what you're saying. And I think that, authoritarianism was a word you used.
Right.
And what we don't speak about is the fear behind what that means. There's fear in leading.
Yes.
And yet faith at the same time. Right. So
you have to have both.
You have to have both. And I appreciate you saying that. I'm about to go look that book up. Now my ethics.
We'll sit and we'll study together.
Talk about that.
One thing that because I've only been a CEO for a year and some change.
Let's go.
And, I made it the first year.
You made it.
You did it.
You did it.
You really did it. You did great.
But one of the things that I walk away with in my first year as a reflection is there's a lot of questioning of female leaders.
Oh, yes.
And I think it may be even more black. Yes. It's like, why this? Why are you making this decision? It's like a constant questioning of not even authority. It could be authority, but it's also just your existence and your leadership. There's a discomfort around your leadership. So when you're in a moment of authoritarianism, and for those folks who are listening and who do not know, authoritarianism is just the process of consolidating power to a few as opposed to the people being centered. Right?
Absolutely.
And so when I think about that, it's a tough time anyway for women leaders, but it's even harder with the pressure of what's going on. And I think that's why this podcast, Unite and Rise, is all about a campaign to mobilize people, but more importantly, it's to bring everyday democracy actions to people who don't engage all the time and don't know what it means to be civically engaged. So how can we give little pieces of civic engagement for people to do to empower their part of the movement? You don't have to solve the whole problem, but can you do your part? If enough of us do our part, then we'll be fine.
Amen.
Hopefully. God willing.
God willing.
Okay, my second question for you all. I'm going to go a little deeper. So movements have always relied on the invisible labor and, quite frankly, the emotional intelligence of women. What is something about how women lead specifically, especially in a moment like this, that you think is powerful yet unappreciated and revolutionary in a moment like this?
Let me just start by saying, Celina, you haven't been in this role very long, but the impact has been extraordinary. And the impact just on me personally, leading a different organization, one of the first things you did was come together, bring together CEOs, like working with grassroots organizations, and say, let's link together, let's think together, let's act together, let's support one another across movements. And that's rare and it's special. And I think for so many women, we just assume that those kinds of skills are things that everybody would do, but it's actually extraordinary. It's extraordinary to be thinking about how to play in the sandbox with everybody else and lift everybody else up. It is emotional intelligence. It is at the center of what change actually looks like, being in relationship with each other, being in relationship when it's easy, but being in relationship when it's hard. And I've known Reverend Shavon longer. I always call her Rev. One of our country's most historic civil rights organizations with a longtime partnership with NCJW. Our organizations stood together at Wednesdays in Mississippi back in the day, so it feels like meant to be that we'd be friends. But I've just seen you come in and speak truth to power everywhere, in every room.
And unapologetically.
Exactly, unapologetically, rooted in a shared vision of where we want to be and with the expectation that we can be more. And what I will say is women's leadership has always been powerful, it's always been revolutionary, and it has always been underappreciated. And I think at the core of that is because it's never amplified. And that's why doing this together feels very important. And I think about it. It was not too long ago where we were together at the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. And I often wonder what Dr. Dorothy Height would have said if she had the microphone that day.
Tell us, Reverend, what was she
Well,
saying?
she actually, what she did was be a woman leader. She gave up the microphone so that John Lewis, a 20-something young man, could have the voice and opportunity to engage. And I think, this, I'm a little full because I realized one thing. I took a class a couple weeks ago at the University of Virginia on institutional and individual change management. Like how to lead in moments when there's excessive change. And the first thing that came to me was get out of your own way. And for women leaders, that is difficult. And I remember I was the only Black woman in the class, and I raised my hand and I said, does this theory apply in all societal situations? And people kind of sat back and looked at me like, what are you talking about? Because I realized that there are some spaces where women are uncomfortable because we've been conditioned to be in the way of our own selves.
To question.
You question yourself. How do I look? Am I supposed to be here? Can I say this? Do I know enough? Did I prepare? Is the family okay? Are you okay? But hide your feelings. Ooh, don't show too much.
Right.
And then to add these cultural layers of race, religion, experience, geography, education, or not. I mean, it is a dance to be a woman leader.
Yes.
And you have to know which parties to go to.
Right. Ooh.
Don't ever forget that. Like and is the dance floor safe for me?
Yes.
Or are people just watching to see if I'm going to fall? And there are some that actually want you to fall.
That's right.
And I think that the space around invisible leadership to me and invisible labor, it speaks to why so many women are unhealthy in their leadership roles. Because they're working 37 hours in a day, it only has 24.
Right.
Yep.
Right? You can't help it because you're constantly on. And what I wish women leaders would understand is that what's in you is essential for the now.
And it's enough.
It's
It's
actually
enough for this moment. It's more
than enough.
Yeah.
But the limits are placed on us by us.
Right.
And let's be honest, I wish women would get better at cheering on women.
Yeah.
I was just about to say the same thing. It's placed on us. And then
It ain't us.
That's why we have to show different different ways about going to do this and do things even more together. We haven't seen yet the revolution of women actually supporting women. We have started to talk about it, and then people go behind closed doors and say something different. And I think it's so important that we show a different model. I had somebody, and I don't mind saying who in this moment, I did an event with Sheryl Sandberg, right, who authored Lean In, somebody I've looked up to for a long time. The event went really well. And afterwards, she emailed my board president, and she said something really, really nice about me. It was very meaningful. It was very specific. It was very nice. And she said, please share this with the rest of the board. It was like a validating thing for another woman to support me.
That's right.
And afterwards, I spoke to her. I thanked her for it. And she said, this is something you can do too. Because women also need to hear that the women they see in those top positions of leadership support each other. And I have to tell you, I got off the phone with Sheryl, and I sent an email to a male CEO of a large Jewish organization about somebody who worked for him. And I said, I want you to know that I notice that this person has done X, Y, and Z is extraordinary. And if you, just so you know, at any given time, I'm going to try to steal her away. So I hope you're paying her well. I hope you. But
that's what it takes.
We shouldn't need that extra validation, but there's something really beautiful about saying, how can we all, in the positions we're in, continue to lift people up for real around us?
Authentically. I've been talking a lot about spirituality, which it's not always a safe space.
It's safe here, honey.
But I talk about, if you are living and breathing, then you have a purpose in this moment. Whatever you believe in, no matter what. Or not, whether you believe or not. But I said you have to lean into your purpose in this moment, because if you don't lead into this moment of stepping in, you have to put aside what history and society has told us, that we're not competent, that we're too emotional as leaders, that we can't show up a particular way. In this moment of divine femininity, which is the era that we're in this universe, we have to lean into our callings.
I'm living in a moment where this, kind of, it's been a thing. Black girl magic, black women winning and leading, has felt for some very off-putting. And I've had to sit back and ask the question, why?
Yeah.
Right? What's off-putting about a moment in time where we're seeing historical moments happen? And it's off-putting because it's unfathomable to the societal hierarchy. Yeah. And we got to be okay with this to talk about it.
Also, when you do that, when you shine your light, I think it also disrupts people's spirit.
I think it's a yes. You're right.
Because it challenges whatever it is they're not showing up as.
Or their truth.
Which
is that your advancement is in contrast to their comfort. Mm-hmm. And I think that we have to be thoughtful about that.
Yeah.
It's not a competition for us, but it is for them. That's why the demons tremble.
I was like, it's not.
It's true. Well, now that we've established this is the special faith episode of the podcast, what I want to say is I think about this often and what it means that Moses gets talked about as a central leadership figure, at least in Jewish tradition, and he is. But I think a lot about Miriam. And I think about what it meant when Jews were literally slaves in Egypt and were escaping. They had 2 seconds to leave, right? What would you pack if you had to leave your home in 2 seconds? Comfortable shoes, grab your kids, get out of there. But she did something that I think is not talked about enough that really changed the fate of the Jewish people. And she packed a timbrel. A musical instrument. And after they escaped, the first thing she did was she started singing. And I think a lot about what would have happened had she not done that. Would the Jews have ever kind of wandered through the desert? Would they have ever gone on the journey? Yeah. They couldn't actually go on the journey. We couldn't get the 10 Commandments. We couldn't do any of the things had she not thought to bring our community together in a moment of actual desperation in something that they could have never known. They were literally in the desert with nothing. They watched people get killed. Some people got left behind. Yeah. So I think that's women's leadership that doesn't get talked about enough. But I think it's so special to say, you have to have that hope too. You have to pack your timbrels. You have to prepare for the good. You have to prepare for the joy. And we actually have to celebrate even in the moments that are incremental. You didn't get to the promised land yet, but you made it one step further than where you were before. We're going to celebrate that.
Well, hope is revolutionary, and it requires a great deal of courage.
It does.
To have it in hard time. I mean, it's easy to have it when things are great. But you're talking about something that leads into, I think, this last, or hope, maybe the last question. Even now, as we are in the eye of the storm, and even as we see cracks in democracy and the democracy that we've known, I sometimes am just like, I want the 90s back. The 90s politics that I thought was bad, that was great.
Easy.
Right. So it was so much better. What feels most fragile in this moment? And also, where do you see sparks that make you believe that we're not just surviving this moment, but shaping ourselves to thrive in the next?
Most fragile is the pile on of lawlessness. And when I say lawlessness, I mean the concerted effort to not govern, the concerted effort to shut down, remove agencies, the concerted effort to not activate what we used to have, which are protections under the law.
Right.
So when the law is broken in order to govern, that is oxymoronic. And that feels fragile because the foundation cannot withstand excessive amount of lawlessness, because at that point, lawlessness wins. And those of us that at least have tried to practice and litigate and activate behind getting to what's legal,
Right.
when that's gone, and there's no accountability for that, that feels fragile. I had a great opportunity to hear from Brian Stevenson, and he spoke about this. He said that in every moment in history in this country, and I'm speaking from the Black perspective now, where we've seen the worst, we've seen lawlessness before. And I had to sit back with that, right? Because, and I'm not just talking about like slavery, because that was actually the law. Like, it was the law that had enslaved people. That was the law, right? And it wasn't until the laws were changed and the pushback against authoritarianism, against forms of fascism, I would argue, there was an opportunity to overcome that. And my joy and my hope are in the young people.
Yes.
I was not this smart at 19. I want to go ahead and let's put it on the table. I was not that
We
fly.
didn't have this much technology.
No, I had no idea what's going on. My 11-year-old is killing me. He was like, "Have you been watching?" I said, "Watching what?" He's like, "Did you hear what he said?" I said, "Who is he?" Right? But the joy for me was, oh my, we have young people that are realizing our rights are now being put into question, are now on the chopping block.
Yeah.
I've got to push back, and they are pushing us. I'm a Gen Xer.
Yes.
So shout out to those of us that are Gen Xers, because we have to speak a lot of languages. And I'm learning that the hope is my ability to have multiple experiences trained by baby boomers, right? Raising millennials and Zs. We have the opportunity to bridge this gap. That's hope for me. The other hopeful space that I see is faith leadership. I've seen a resurgence in faith leaders come back in a way that is unprecedented.
Reminds me of 60s.
Oh,
60s.
It does.
50s and 60s.
But it also shows me where the gaps were, because King struggled. He was put out of his denomination for this work. Look at white Christian nationalism. That's a fragile space for me.
Girl, this is not
That feels
national Christian. This is not Christianity.
This is not Jesus. But the flag has overwritten the faith.
Yep.
And what we're seeing now in this moment, that's fragile for me.
Yeah.
When the space of faith has been co-opted to make you say things like the Black church doesn't exist. Well, now we have another sense of denial that I think is very dangerous. But there's still hope, because there's young prophetic leaders. There are babies growing up in churches that are learning the history and learning how to love. And what I believe is true, hear me, is that this country is going to win when we learn about each other.
Yeah.
When we learn about our experiences, we find out, man, we want the same things.
We do.
And I think that there's an opportunity for us as women to help be a force to make that happen. And I'm also here for the fight. So
Shavon has talked about fighting 3
I
times.
can the mic hear me? I'm here for the confrontation of the intellect and the confrontation of the soul and the spirit, because I think that's what we're fighting. So I'm stopping there. It's a war.
Spiritual warfare.
And get
100%.
ready.
Well, you're not going to be surprised that I also was going to talk about young people and faith.
Love it.
There's never been a civil rights movement that's been successful without faith and without faith leaders. And right now there's a weaponization of faith that just has to be addressed. And the best way to do it are people who say, actually, that's not what it says, right? It says, love thy neighbor, not sue them, not arrest them. It says, love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
And so, but where I sit right now of what feels very fragile on like an interpersonal level is so many of us feel very alone, unheard, unseen. And I think when we feel that way, it could be hard to show up for others because you're like, why aren't people showing up for me the way I need to? But allyship is a verb, and I think we need more of it. And I think we have to overflow in like what we're giving. We have to model what we're looking for. And it's true that two people can feel really unseen and unheard for very different reasons, and they can both be valid. And so I think in this moment of disconnect, in this moment where there's so much that we're working on, where perhaps somebody who's spending all their time working in the climate change arena, which is not the focus I've been on, wants me to be engaged there, and I might want them to be engaged on reproductive rights. We have to be gracious in the fact that we are called to do different things, show up in particular ways, and I think really show up even more for each other and start, of course, in the fight. We got to fight and win, and we got to know who we are along the way, and we got to learn people's stories, unlearn our assumptions, and just be better at expanding what that means. Love thy neighbor. Who's our neighbor? It's not just who lives next door to us. I would actually say our goal is to expand that concept of neighbor to almost everybody. And I think if we can do that, we can hold on to what feels very fragile. The sparks are how we're seeing people organize today. The sparks are more people who are faith leaders talking about these things from the Bema, from their church, et cetera, and people re-engaging after years of disillusionment because they realize the alternative is silence and that that's not going to move us forward.
In your comment, people not feeling seen and that maybe precipitating you not being able to see others or lean into whatever. I feel like people are having a hard time leaning into love.
Yes.
And maybe that's because they don't either self-love or feel the love and all the things, because it's so much easier to hate. Hate is it's very reactionary. It's based off anger, hurt, all the things. It's just so easy to hate. Love requires more discipline. And I try to encourage, because there are people who it would be easy to say have strong dislike for or hate. It's just not an option. Because I'm just like, love is what lights and hate is what creates darkness. And we're in a moment where people are so comfortable leaning into hate because it's the easy way.
Well, it's the taught way.
Well,
we got to be thoughtful.
Epigenetically, it may be in people's bloodline. I'm just saying.
Seems that way. Yeah.
Slavery, the trauma that happened through slavery, epigenetics is all about trauma passing down.
I agree 1,000%.
But also hatred, murder, that's also in people's bloodline.
That's evil.
Right.
That's the evil. But I am going to push, though, to say that I've done a talk on this kind of resilience of enslaved people's faith.
Okay.
That we lived in a country where an entire 4, 5, 6 generations of African enslaved men and women and their children were able to redefine the faith experience even while enslaved.
Right.
That's just nuts to me.
With the language
that they did not know, but yet and still they understood, hear me, an Israelite experience. For them, it was the Jewish understanding in the Bible. Well, there was a relation there.
Yeah.
Which is why we've always had relations.
Yeah.
Because it's been about trek and journey. But why I talk about being taught, it still reigns true. We are conditioned to put labels and activate hate based on experience and based on instruction. I use this example all the time in sports. I'm a crazy Philly fan. So anything Philadelphia, Go Birds, right? I'm nuts. And I did this in a class where I taught a class in the city of Philadelphia. And I put a cowboy star on the screen. And everybody went, her boo, right? Immediate. And I said, who are they? And I'm like, oh, the cowgirls. They went through all the list of things that we call Cowboys fans.
Look at her getting this.
I'm getting it in. It's coming through. But what I said was, when my son was 1, his first words were not dad. It was EAGLES. I taught him how to spell it. And when I saw a star, he would go, boo. And I realized that's how hate is taught.
Oh.
I showed him the enemy immediately in his birth.
That
they
very real
are
world
the
example.
threat to your ability to win. So if I see your difference by label, he knew, boo. And I'm telling you, that's how it moves in our country. You're taking our jobs. You're in the way. Right. You're a woman. And listen, it's even happening in church. It's not. They're not of God. They are not this. And so we taught and are teaching and are now living out loud the most inhumane actions. But it's because my jersey is not your jersey. Yep. And instead of saying we all play the game, we're saying you are my enemy.
And people wouldn't even equate that to competitiveness or love of a particular team.
Hate.
But that, you're right.
It's hate.
It's hate.
It's a form of
I taught it. And I love people that love football, but I hate the Cowboys as a kid growing up.
You're not going to like that I grew up a Cowboys fan. I almost wasn't going to say it.
My brother and my mom are Cowboys fans. We're in the same house.
Yeah, and you can be together.
You can be together, and that's the larger point. That if you learn the nuance, somebody's got to invest in the emotional intelligence of what it means to be a human. Yeah. Yes. And no one is doing that. And that's why this work is hard, because the current administration, and we're nonpartisan, but we're factual. What you see happening in the current administration, right? I want to be clear, is that we are seeing an attempt to redefine humanity in America and say that God is behind it. Yeah. That's dangerous.
Well, and there's this other thing happening here that I think we have to hold on to about what it means that in our country, we don't even acknowledge the harm that has been caused. I went a few years ago, I went to Germany for the first time. I got to tell you, you can't go 2 steps without them acknowledging the Holocaust.
Really?
In Berlin, on the pavement, in front of every house where Jews were taken, there is a plaque that literally says who they were, how many people were taken. There are different people who live there now, and it's not necessarily the Jewish community.
Wow.
Everywhere you go, on every flagpole, on every street, the story is told so that it doesn't happen again. In this country, slavery is brushed underneath the carpet, if you will. But then I think even more recently, 1 million people dying of COVID. We don't have like a national day of remembrance or any. We just went on and pretended that didn't happen. And I think admitting and owning the bad is what allows you to move through it differently. And so as a former trauma counselor, I also think about this of like the arc of healing, if you've been through trauma, is not just about making it better for you. It's about moving through the trauma the best you can. It's always there, and it shows up in ways you cannot control, and that's okay. Like if you just feel one day you're triggered by seeing something. But the arc of moving through trauma is similar to what people call the hero's journey. In books, it's that you end up going back to your community and making it better for other people. And so I just think, of course, of all the identities that we carry into this work, we do this for us, but we do this to make our communities better, stronger, more loving, as we really do try to shift what this country and so many people have been ingraining in us to say, actually, it doesn't have to be that way. We could build a better world with love.
Well, you all are having me think about what it means to hate, like simple as that, but also what it means to love and to heal collectively and individually.
Heal.
And what that means. It's not just the oppressor or the people who harms responsibility. It's our responsibility too, collectively.
That's heavy.
I know.
Whoa, we need 12 more hours.
I know. I'm going to have to bring y'all back.
Keep going.
So we always conclude our conversation with a small ritual. We ask each guest to leave a seed, a thought, a question, a challenge, or a truth, something for the next person in the movement to hold, water, or wrestle with. So I want to share the last guest. Erica Chenoweth joined us about a month ago, and they left us with the following seed.
Okay.
It's ordinary people living where they are, working in their communities as leaders that make or break the future. And so you can comment on that, or you can plant your own seed. But let us know what seed you're leaving with folks today.
I want Reverend Shavon to have the last word, so I know her seed's gonna be too good. So I'll stick to our faith lens that we've had and say there's a prominent rabbi that gets quoted often in Jewish texts, Rabbi Hillel, and he says there are three parts of the quote. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?
Love that.
And they actually, all three are equally as important. And what I've noticed in the last few years, particularly for people who want to do the work, is that they're really good often at the second or the third, right? Showing up for others and saying, oh, this is urgent. I'm going to get out now. I'm going to go to the protest. I'm going to hold the sign.
Especially
I'm going to
women.
call. Right? So that I've been thinking a lot, and I've always been drawn to that latter too. That we're not only here for ourselves, we're here to show up for others. But I've been thinking a lot about that, put the life mask on first kind of thinking that you have to have. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me?
Yeah.
And I think that that's there first because it is the first part of what it means to be able to do the sustained work, to show up for others, and to respond to the urgent moments of our time. So all three matter, but if people are drawn to one or the other, I think about how might you focus on what you're not drawn to and really look at that as a radical act to be able to be in this fight for the long run.
And this is why you're a revolutionary and a radical. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
It's dual for me. I think I want to start with the ordinary people conversation. I think there's a lot of investment in pitting learned and unlearned against each other. And in this moment that we're living in, I want to offer to any person who's listening to this that's saying, this is way beyond my reach. I just got to eat. I've just got to pay my bills. I just got to get my kids to school. Let me say to you that you actually are sitting on power. Your ability to wake up, by I believe God's grace, to wake up and be able to do things in your own capacity is actually the power move. And we don't talk about it that way. To be able to get up, to be able to activate in your space to survive means you're taking the first step towards keeping this society alive. But the push that I have for those that say that they're ordinary is there's no such thing as ordinary when you look at human life. There's no such thing as ordinary when you think about what struggles this country has gone through and that you are actually a manifestation of somebody's prayers.
Yeah.
Right? So for the mom that's listening, listen, a lot of it. And that's the best part of it. Don't stop. That's the other problem. We don't talk about that either. We have to help people understand that even your choices that you make a difference, right? So what little thing can I do? What do you value? Whoever's listening to us, what is the thing that makes you tick? Is it your money? Is it your children? Is it your home? Is it the school system? Whatever it is, whatever that thing is, lean in there. Yeah. Because ordinary people create extraordinary opportunity. Yeah. Don't ever forget that. So that's for the quote-unquote ordinary people. No, you're extraordinary because you woke up. And so now we want to pour into when you wake up, what do you do with what you're waking up with? I think to the leader, in the moment of conflict and trial and backfilling against the wall, my sole verse of survival has been Romans 8:28 for me. And that is, for we know that all things work together for the good, for them that love God and are called according to his purpose. Here's what I want you to hear. All things working together for the good means that all things won't be good.
Right.
Yep.
No one ever talks about it that way. So all things, you're not exempt from the bad.
Right.
So if you're in leadership in this moment, that means God called you in this moment because he equipped you to be able to deal with all things. The miss is, and the shout for most is, I just hear the good. Well, wait a minute. Before you get the good, there's going to be some bad. Who are we to be exempt from the bad?
Right.
And who are we not to give God glory when we get to the good?
Right.
So when you're in leadership, you got to learn how to do it in all moments.
Right.
And I'm encouraging folks that are listening that all of this is a part of the process.
Right.
All of this is a part of the journey. And when it's all said and done, who were you in the moment?
Yeah.
Did you land in it and stay in it while it was bad? Or could you only hang when it was good?
Right.
Because if you can only hang when it's good, then you're not the one for this moment.
Right. That's so.
And get
Can I
off the
say something
bus.
about that?
Yeah.
I've been saying, to your point, as leaders, people who are already in this movement, speaking to people who are either don't feel like they have a home, don't have a place in terms of where they lean in, to speak power to the pain points. We've got to speak power to pain. And what I mean by that is, when I was talking to young people traveling for the election, they were like, it doesn't matter. And I was in Arizona, Nevada, Michigan. I'm like, what do you mean?
You're like, wait,
what do you mean? But they were young people, and they were just like, no, it doesn't matter. And I said, well, tell me what's upsetting you right now. And they're like, well, I'm in this court case.
There you go.
I can't afford anywhere to live. I said, well, do you know who makes the decisions about that in your state? Do you know who makes that decision federally or how those decisions are made? So I think you have to choose. I said, I'm not here to preach to you. I just want to let you know that there's an answer that you may not have considered. I said, but whatever your pain is, there is someone who makes the decision about whether it's going to be harder or easier for you. So you have to decide whether or not you're going to lean into power, or whether you're going to abdicate your self-autonomy. Yes. And that is a choice. So you can make the decision, but it's all on you. You are equipped to make that decision. And for the pain, for the hard parts of life, but given what you said, I think both of you, it's not going to be easy, but we don't get to opt out of the hard just because we want it all to be good. Any final thoughts before we close out?
Well, I wanted you to go last for a reason, but you made me think of something that I go to often when I'm feeling like there's no hope, right? Because there have been other times where it's been worse than now. And I think sometimes about that, even if for one person it might not feel that way. But I think actually often about Emmett Till, and particularly Emmett Till's mother, and what it means that she made a decision to give him an open casket for the world to see what happened. And then that image went on all the newspapers, and a woman in the South saw it, an older woman who had never been involved in advocacy, was not leading an organization, was not, for what we're talking about today, kind of the ordinary person at home. And she could have said, I'm not leaving my house. But instead, she went to her local church and did an activist organizing training. And exactly 100 days later, Rosa Parks changed history. And I think about what it meant. Like, I used to teach fourth grade, the story we tell that's not true about her, that she was tired at the end of the long day. That's not what happened. What happened was multiple women before her did the same thing, and it didn't get picked up. One too young, one was pregnant, one was told she was too black for the press to pick it up. And she was like, I don't know if it was the fourth or the fifth, but she was the one that ultimately created the ripples that changed the course of history. And so I just think when you look back at who has made the change, it's with love to all of our organizations, and we'll do this work, it has often been somebody who made a decision to show up and do something. An ordinary person. If enough people say, I will not just sit at home and be overcome with despair today, I will do one thing, then something is bound to happen that will change the course of history moving forward. And I think to the people listening, it could be you. And I believe that. It has to be.
Yeah, and it just has to be enough of us. Yeah. So for everyone listening, may that seed take root in your mind, your conversations, and inspire you towards courage. Stay tuned for the final episode, episode 3, airing this winter. We are very excited Thank you for joining me for this episode of Unite and Rise. Special thanks to Shavon and Sheila and Shavon for extending your brilliance to the movement. We need it, and we are so grateful for it. The fight for democracy is powered by everyday people just like you who choose to get informed, who choose to get involved, and who choose to take action. In our next episode, we'll speak with Janavi Rao, president and founder of New Voters, about how to engage and empower the new generation of activists. Until then, remember, democracy is strongest when we unite and rise together. Thank you all for joining us.